Hey YouTube, Trip here again with another Banggood review. And what we're going to be reviewing today is this little solder over here. I'm going to talk a bit about the solder if you have a look at it. It is a really pretty solder. It comes with a very nice casing. It's got a temperature control over there, which takes you from 200 degrees Celsius to 450 degrees Celsius. And a little light over there that tells you once it's reached its optimum temperature, the temperature that you've set on the little wheel. Now this is a 60 watt soldering iron, so it should generally produce a lot of heat. Now with soldering irons, some of them have got a really high temperature, but they don't carry a lot of heat. So basically what that means is when you take a soldering iron and you put it against something, the copper wire absorbs a lot of the heat, and some soldering irons are not really strong enough to maintain that heat. But what we're going to be doing with the solder today is we're going to be soldering this little connector to a 12 volt adapter so that I can use a balanced charger. It's not the first time I use a soldering iron. I've used it to glue or to solder a couple of XD60 plugs, and well, the first thing that went wrong with this little solder is the tip has broken off. That actually broke off while I was soldering an FPV antenna, a mushroom antenna, to an FPV camera, and that little hot tip went rolling all over the circuit board, taking a bit of solder with it, which short-circuited the FPV camera, and well, that FPV camera is in the bin now. So yeah, not a very good start to the soldering iron, losing the tip over there. And when I switched it on for the first time as well, there was a lot of smoke coming out of this section over here. That lasted for about 5 minutes, and then it stopped, and I haven't seen that again. But is the solder good to use? We'll find out in a second. So I'm going to take our wires, and this is generally how I do it. We just take the wire, sort of spike them together and twist. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of flux to the cable so that the solder can flow nicely, because I am using solder that is a bit thick, and I'm going to use these helping hands, which aren't very helpful. I mean, they're really bad helping hands. We've got these of Banggood as well. Even though I've glued them to try and sort of semi-make them work, they still don't really work well. Yeah, it's not a very good set of helping hands, but what can we do? I have sent an email to support from Banggood. I haven't heard back from them yet, but yeah. So what we're going to be doing now is I'm also going to just get a little bit of flux on the solder because it's really thick. What we want to do over here is I'm going to check our temperature. We put it at 400 degrees, and we're going to take the tip of the soldering iron, put it against the wire, watch the flux bubble. Well, firstly what I should do is get a bit of solder onto the tip. Just a bit of solder on the tip so we can hold it against there. And this is thick, so I'm taking it really slow. I'm gonna get some solder onto the wire. Hold my breath, or try and hold my breath, or not breathe in as much with all the smoke flux, or all the flux smoke. I don't have a piece of sponge, so I just clean the old solder off the tip with this sponge cloth. Yeah, good solder joint over there. Solder does work. I mean, it doesn't carry as much heat as I think a 60 watt solder should, but it seems good enough. I can't really complain about it. It works. Mind you, if you are going to be soldering something, keep your heat shrink pretty far away from the cords, because it does take some time to melt the solder, and let's bear in mind I am using solder that is really thick. So yeah, it does heat up the cable, and your heat shrink would sort of shrink up on the wire somewhere. But yeah, let's just have another go at it. Just take a tiny bit of flux. I just use my fingers to rub this onto the wire. And drop a tiny bit onto the solder, because like I said, the solder is really thick, and we're just gonna get a little bit of solder onto the tip. And as you can see, the light comes back on as soon as I touch it, and the heat is getting pulled away from the soldering line. And we're gonna put that underneath there. Yeah. There we go. And that's a bit of a messy solder joint, but I've got some flux, so it's okay. But yeah, as you can see, the soldering iron works really well. Aside from the tip that broke off and stuffed up one of my projects, do be careful about that. And I'm just going to get some solder onto the tip, so we can switch it off. And yeah, that's my review on this Banggood solder. Is it a good solder? It's okay. It's not amazing, but it's okay. Bear in mind, the solder is about €4. It's really cheap for solder. So, with accordance to price and what you get for it, it's bang for your buck. I really like it. It does its job. I find no problem with it. Like I said, other than the tip breaking off. It's a good solder. Be careful about the tip. And I'm not so sure that's going to happen to everybody. But do I recommend it? Yes, I do. Do I think it's a good solder? Yes, I do. It's okay. It serves its purpose. That's my review on this product. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.